Rounding with decimals. So when we're rounding with decimals, you need to have a strong foundation of rounding with whole numbers. So try to think back to what you did with whole numbers. Some of the same concepts apply. So if we're looking at this and we're trying to round this number to the nearest tenth, the first thing you need to do is remember what is a tenth. So if we're looking at 0.726, this digit, the 1, is the units. Now beside that is the tenths column, then we've got your hundredths, then you've got your thousandths. So if you're rounding to the nearest tenth, the digit right beside it is the bossy one. So in this case, that's the 2. It's the one that decides if this number rounds up or if this number rounds down. Again, if you're rounding to the tenths, the number beside it is the bossy one, okay? If you were rounding to the hundredths, the number beside would be the bossy one. So in the event that we needed to round to the nearest hundredth, which is a 2 in this case, the 6 would decide if that 2 rounds up or if that 2 rounds down. Let's go back and look at our value, 0.726. So what they're asking here, round this to the nearest tenth, is this number closer to 0.7 or is it closer to 0.8 on a number line? Since we're trying to round to the nearest tenth, this 2 is the bossy one. It's the one that makes the decision. It decides if we round up or if we round down. Let's go back looking at this number here. You're trying to decide, do we round it down to 0.7 or do we round it up to 0.8? We don't round it all the way down to 0.6. That's not the question. So when we say round down, it means does the value in the tenths stay at 7 or does it round up to an 8? What we can do in this case is we can make a number line right here. So we could put 10 spaces in between here and they should be equal. Let's see if I can do this. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 0.8. So in this case, they're not equal, but you understand anyways. What we're saying is if we plot 0.72 on here, would this number, so we can kind of disregard this number here. If we plot 0.72, would our number be closer to 0.7 or closer to 0.8? So if we look, if this one right here is 0.71, 0.72, and this is our value, 0.73, 0.74, 0.75, and this could be 0.80. If we plot here, we notice that our 0.72 is closest to 0.7. So you would round this number down to 0.7. If we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, that's the last digit that we have to have. You could put 2 zeros if you want to, but you also don't have to. So if we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, there will be nothing after the hundredth. There will be no if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, there will be nothing in the hundredths or the thousandths or the 10,000. We remember from younger grades, if a number is 1 to 4, you round down to the floor, or Thanos punches that number down to the floor. If the number is 5 to 9, you climb the vine, or Wonder Woman throws the value up. Remember that little trick, 1 to 4, down to the floor, 5 to 9, climb away from. Let's look at another vine. So if we're looking at this number here, example here. So if we're rounding to the nearest tenth again, we look at our 10th column, the 9 will be the bossy one that decides. So if we were to plot this on our number line again, doing the exact same thing, having 10 digits, our 0.79 would be very close to 0.8. We know 0 to 4 down to the floor, 0 to 5 climb the vine. So because this digit is higher than 4, it's 5 or above, this number would be rounded up to 0.8. Remember, all of these other digits can go away in this case. Let's look at the next one. If the number is 5 on the dot, basically it'll be right in the middle here when we plot. Essentially, it's just a rule that if a number ends in 5, we round it up. So in this case, we would round this up to 0.8. So if we're looking at rounding something to the nearest hundredth, we identify that our tens and our hundredth place. So in this case, that's the 5. The number beside it would be the bossy one. So our 6 is the decider. Remember, if we were to plot this on our number line right here, it would be 0.751, 0.752, 0.753, 0.754, 0.7555, 0.756. So if we see in this case, that one would be right here. We can tell that 0.756 is closest to 0.76, so our number would round up. We also know that 6, with the rule, 5 were 0 to 4 down to the floor, 5 to 9 climb the vine. So since this number is higher than 5, we climb the vine and we round this up to 0.76. If you've got round to the nearest thousands, we're going to do 1, 2, so we do tens, hundreds, thousands. Your 1 is going to be the bossy one here. So what I want you to do right now is get out a piece of paper and draw this diagram exactly. So you're going to put this square at the top, make a triangle just like this, write both of these values, and make your own number line to figure out when we need to round 0.7561 to the nearest thousandth. Does it round down to 0.756 or does it round up to 0.757? Go back to this video and you can pause it right here so that you can get this done. Remember, you're drawing this diagram, putting the number line right here in the middle, and deciding and showing your work to show, do we round 0.7561 down or do we round it up if we're rounding to the nearest thousandth? Remember this little anecdote, 1 to 4 down to the floor, 5 to 9 climb the vine. They'll be very helpful for you.